Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to downtown Gravenhurst on this beautiful sunny day. And we're glad you could join us, whether it's morning live or any time of the day or night. You're here with us. We're sharing this space together, so we're always live and we're connected right now. So glad you could be with us. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It's February 14th, 2021. That means St. Valentine is upon us, and we're going to focus on the theme of love today. What is love, and what kinds of love are there? And I want to just shout out the birthdays first. We've got Jennifer Fletcher, if you know her, grew up in the church and went on to York University for vocal studies. Well, we're singing her praises today. Happy birthday, Jen. And we've got a special surprise later in the service. Jen will be joining us in a pre-recorded segment of Whitney Houston's version of I Will Always Love You. Thank you, Mike Church, for producing that video, and for Dave Robbins for playing backup music along with me and Jenny Fletcher. So stay tuned for that immediately following the sermon. Today is also Transfiguration Sunday in the church calendar. Oh, you have a couple of announcements? Thank you. Courtney's got a couple of announcements.
Good morning. Sorry, everyone. Just wanted to let you know, first off, that the office is closed tomorrow for Family Day. I will be here from Tuesday to Friday for this week. So if you need anything, call me or come and see me at that point. Secondly, I was asked to remind you that the coldest night of the year is next Saturday, February 20th, and that is taking place anytime you want to walk. We have a team of 6 people from Trinity, and we have raised over $2,000, so shout out to everyone who donated to that. Plus, Gap overall has surpassed its $50,000 goal, so a good shout out to that. Congratulations, and thank you everyone for your support in this event. I hope it's not too cold for all you walkers. I believe, Dan, you're working in the coldest night of the year.
I just got out of a major car accident, and I'm just recuperating.
You might not, yeah.
Showed up today, so I'm probably not gonna.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so we have a great team, and shout out to everyone who is going to be doing that. Thirdly, I just wanted to remind you of our kitchen project. This is one of the pictures of what's going on in the kitchen. Doesn't look like much of a kitchen now, but as you can see, we have had beautiful new flooring put down, and we've had some beautiful new windows put in, as well as the electrical and plumbing has been worked on. So it is coming along. We are very pleased. Just wanted to let you know that our new updated kitchen will not only better serve our congregation's needs, but will also better accommodate daily use by Gravenhurst Against Poverty and our many other community partners and the large number of volunteers who prepare food for the many people in our community experiencing food insecurity. So since the beginning of January, the old kitchen has been torn out, new flooring has been put in and everything. The total cost of the renovation is approximately $97,000. We are actively fundraising to meet this goal, and the total raised to date is $80,190. So we're almost there, but we still do need a little bit more. So if you wish to contribute in support of this kitchen project, you can either mail me a check to the church, or you can come and drop it off, or you can do an e-transfer. We really appreciate your contribution to this, and I look forward to showing you some more pictures of when things get put back together. There should be new cabinets in the next couple of weeks, isn't it, Dave? Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, and it'll look more like a kitchen when we get there. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Courtney, for the update. And thanks, Dave, sitting right there. He does so much work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. So thank you all who are involved in that, and speaks for itself. Well, today is also the day in the church calendar where we acknowledge the transfiguration of Jesus. And so we're going to be talking about that word trans later on, but I thought this was a good opportunity to talk about Valentine's Day and how a lot of us were raised with a certain image in our head about what romantic love even is and who it should be between. And so we're going to just talk, have a good discussion this morning about different issues that come up in today's world and see where we can solve some of them to create a little less pain in the world. We're going to start with our opening thoughts. The words from My Funny Valentine by Lorenz Hart. My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with your heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Lovely. We'll go to the next one. Now, this is by Dr. Brené Brown, and I heard her on the Laverne Cox show, and Laverne Cox has a new podcast. She's a trans person out there trying to create a bigger discussion about the issues that she faces in the world. And I just thought this just hits the nail on the head. So what happens when you discriminate against somebody? Well, it's a dehumanization process. And Brené Brown says, dehumanization is the birthplace of every genocide recorded through history. If you take a group of people that are different than you, that you fear, and you remove human qualities from them, it gives humans the capacity for violence toward them. They're not human after all anymore. We're actually not biologically wired to maim, rape, hurt, and kill other humans. Thankfully. But, so in order to do that, we have to go through a system of dehumanization. And then once you strip people of their humanity, you're able to do all kinds of things to folks. That sounds pretty harsh, but it literally is where the slippery slope goes when you see people being discriminated against. And now a much shorter quote by RuPaul from the famous RuPaul's Drag Race. It's an international cultural phenomenon TV show. We're all born naked and the rest is drag. We got a couple of laughs out there. I mean, hey, Alice, why aren't you wearing your Renaissance ruffles today? Everybody in the Renaissance wears ruffles and you're literally not conforming to society. What are you doing?
I'm trying to do the puffy white hair.
Oh. He spent too much time on his puffy white hair this morning. Didn't get a chance. All I'm saying is one culture's norms cannot just be dropped onto another culture. It just doesn't work. And things change. If we can have our readers come forward to the microphone to read together as we invite the presence of God with us today in a difficult discussion, but one worth having. Kindly read the bold print. Gathered in this sacred space, O Creator Spirit, in the multicolored company of your church on earth and in heaven, we celebrate your creation and invite your presence into our midst. We know, Creator Spirit, that eternity cannot hold you, nor can our little words describe the breadth of your faithfulness to us. Yet in the space of our small heart and in silence, come close and repair us. Amen. Amen. We've got some interesting music for you, some familiar music with some new words. So if you know the hymn, God Who Gives to Life Its Goodness, 260 in the hymn book, we're going to sing instead All the Colors of the Rainbow to the same tune. And I can start, Dave, if you want. genders find expression when released to human side. So the church reveals most beauty where diversity is real. Breadth of race and class and gender, room for doubt and space to heal.
All the body's parts are wanted, nor can one despise the rest. Head and hand must work together, as must eye and ear and chest. So the church needs all its members for arranging ministries, very gifts with one great mission. Bear this for the least of these.
Every language gains more music when the words for peace appear. Pax Shalom, Irene Hewa, Pace Santi, freedom near. Though our tongues make sounds that vary, I'll bespeak a common home, longing for the end of conflict and a new life in God's shalom.
Teach us, God, our need of others. Through them help us fully live. Wean us from our selfish habits. Let us listen, learn, forgive. May we see your longed for image in each human heart and face, and behold how those around us can be channels of your grace.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for every week that you're filling in last minute and doing it so well. And now our prayer of confession. Kindly read the bold print. We are painfully aware of the ways we dismiss or disdain others who think or act or look differently from ourselves. At our best,
We celebrate the unity we create in the midst of our diversity.
We're so quick to look down on the defect or sin of another. At our best,
We affirm the inherent beauty, worth, and dignity of every GLBT straight person.
and GLBT, gay, lesbian, bi, or trans. We insist that our way and view are the only ones. At our best, we remember
There are many paths to the sacred. The spiritual paths of GLBT persons are among them.
We get caught up in categories, presumptions, and stereotypes around and within us. At our best, we know the choice is not whether to be GLBT or straight, but whether or not to live an authentic life. We so often want to pull the covers over our heads or stay in the closet. At our best, we acknowledge
Coming out is a courageous and spiritual act.
We confess the times when sexual expression has been manipulative and self-interested. At our best, we understand
Sexual expression is one of the many sacred ways that GLBT and straight adults can express the depth of love in their relationships.
We regret the ways in which sexuality and spirituality have been turned against each other. At our best, we commit ourselves.
We support each person's journey of integrating spirituality and sexuality, which leads to wholeness.
We grieve the misuse of marriage, the withholding of its rights and responsibilities for political gain. At our best, we proclaim
Marriage is a sacred union for people who are committed to each other without regard to gender. Love makes a family.
We regret the missed opportunities to care for GLBT people persecuted by bigots. At our best, we pledge ourselves.
Spiritual leaders must take responsibility to lead, protect, and affirm GLBT people, children, adults, and families.
We hold fast to the promising truth that we are one human family. At our best, we remind ourselves,
no one is free when others are oppressed.
Thank you both. When we gather with a good heart, seeking to follow the way of love, God is with us. We may not always get it right, but God's love never misses. Know that God's love lives deep within you and blesses you for the life to which you are called. Thanks be to God. Wow, that was a different prayer of confession, wasn't it? A little outside the box, but definitely necessary. You know, a couple of years ago, our church stepped forward in the AFFIRMING ministry, which was to acknowledge that there are biases in this building and everywhere in the world, and it's up to us to kind of push back against them. A lot of people don't even see a reason to do that. They say, oh, things are normal, there's no issue, is there? But for people who are under the thumb of bigotry, there's a lot of issues, and it shows up every day. So our scripture reading is from Mark 9, verses 2 to 9. And we have a special guest reading through my phone, recorded this week. We're going to have Dustin Grosel, and Dustin is individual who also has a performance career as a drag queen. And we had the opportunity a year ago in December to have Dustin in Gravenhurst right here at Sawdust City at one of the Pride drag shows. Now, if anybody has not had any dealings with such a thing, it can be quite shocking, and it's meant to be. It's meant to kind of like burst open a lot of feelings and things that are pushed down in our society and celebrate them. Our worship committee was there from the church. I was surprised to see. I went to support Dustin, and there was a few others from our church there just hanging out at Sawdust, and I thought, wow, what an amazing community where here we have church on Sunday, and kitty corner to us at Sawdust bar, we have such a also healing event, such as a drag show. The scripture is about the transfiguration of Jesus. So there's a mountain, and we don't really know where this mountain actually is. You try to track it down, there's some debate on, is it Mount Sinai we're talking about, or which mountain is it actually? It's so central to our religions and we don't know some major details. So Jesus goes up the mountain with 3 of his disciples, and while up there, he's transfigured, and Jesus is literally transformed and shows some of his divine nature. A cloud comes and God speaks to the rest of the disciples, and even meets Moses and Elijah there, who also climbed the same mountain. Moses came down with the 10 Commandments, and Elijah was up there hiding out in a cave looking for God. Amazing that we have to get out of where we are, climb a mountain where it's hard to breathe, where things are different, in order to see things a little differently. So we have to put ourselves in an uncomfortable position maybe in order to hear the voice of God. Now, I was speaking with Jackie. Jackie has been ministering here the last little while from Aurelia, and she's going to speak further on the transfiguration of Jesus next week. So definitely tune in for an in-depth look at that. But today we're going to hear the scripture, and we're going to hear it by Dustin Grosel. Thank you, Dustin, for joining us this morning.
Today's scripture reading is from Mark chapter 9, verses 2 to 9. The Transfiguration. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain where they all were alone. There he was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than anyone in the world could bleach them. And there appeared before them Elijah and Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say. They were so frightened. Then a cloud appeared and covered them. A voice came from the cloud, "This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead.
Here endeth the lesson. And now we're going to have a hymn for self-acceptance based on Beach Spring. Steve.
Might be hopeless when you've given up on God, when you feel you're not worth saving, that your beingness is wrong, when your prayers still seem unanswered, not a sound from the divine. Maybe you have been mistaken. God is sending you a sign. Years and years, big for turning into something that you're not. The wrong prayer you have been praying, you are not God's afterthought. You are made as God intended. You are perfect, flawless too. May each one of you remember, nothing serves God for you.
You are worth more than you realize. You are wonderfully made in the image of our mother, father, parents, all the same. Don't let doctrines of our churches use the word to misconstrue. For it's written in the scriptures, surely God delights in you. Well, here we are. I will always love you. Like I said, immediately following the sermon, Jennifer Fletcher will join us with Dave and myself in an amazing recording right here. You'll love it. So this heart, this is, when you open the Bible, you should see a heart on every page, really. That's what we should see. Except for when you open the Bible, sometimes there's no heart anywhere. There's a lot of disdain and strangeness. So it's such a simple thing. We can just put a heart on every page. So God is love, right? But I keep hearing God is love except for this kind of love. And don't do this. And okay, that looks like love, but God is love, but then all these categories of love. I'm genuinely confused. I don't know what the message is. So I will always love you. So we're just going to cycle through and go for a little romp here. So Saint Valentine, he was martyred in the 3rd century, so 260s, I think, somewhere around there. And when you look into the history, it's hard to figure out who this man was too. There's a lot of differing accounts. It's hard to decide what he even did. But one of the ones we'll take for this morning was he was a saint. He was a priest in Rome, and he helped people get married that were having problems getting married. The Emperor Claudius at the time was wanting people for war, and so Christians weren't allowed to marry because they needed to be fighting in the war. Well, Saint Valentine was there marrying people who were forbidden to be married. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, but he was marrying Christians, straight people who are persecuted, and I'd like to talk about all the other marriages who are being persecuted too. So that's Saint Valentine. So speaking of marriage, I heard Alan, our Reverend Alan Link, who was here for 5 years and did so much. This is a sermon, if you go on the YouTube site, this was Alan's, one of his big sermons about gay rights and gay issues, and it was called PC Words, Politically Correct Words. You can find it on our Trinity United Gravenhurst YouTube. So in that particular one, in his sermon, Alan was just saying, if you're going to be hostile or, disrespectful to really anybody, they're part of our community. So when you're disrespectful to them, you're actually disrespectful to us, because they are part. There is no they and us, really. But all this bigotry tries to create that situation. So we're trying to fasten that back together. And Alan does an amazing thing. So if you're upset that there's gay people in the world, like, they're out there, people. Alan's saying it's literally 10% of everybody. 1 in every 10 is gay, let alone all of the other spectrums of different things that there really are. To say you are something, I like blueberries, but on Tuesdays, maybe I like strawberries. Like, to throw yourself hard and fast into a category for all time, that boggles my mind. It's just foreign to my mind. And yet, here we are. So we'll keep going. So this is one we overcame in the recent past, about 50 years ago, in a case actually called Loving versus Virginia, I believe. That was the name of the case in late 60s in the States, where we had interracial marriages. And okay, so a law gets passed and things are good, right? That's how it works. Just done deal, close the book, move on to a bright new world. Not really. There's still injustice, systemic bigotry, families who just disinherit you and they stop speaking to you, you're the other now. If you're doing something like this, you're the other, so you're now the outsider. And now people can really pile on to you because you've chosen to stand with the outcast. Jesus was in a similar boat. He would be speaking to people and his disciples would be saying, get these children away from here. And he would say, no, bring the children around. Or even the disciples would say, you can't be speaking to her. She's a prostitute. Or all these different things. And Jesus was like, literally sought out the outcast and brought them in as a point of his ministry. Maybe that's something he realized on the mountaintop when he saw that his transfiguration, the light that he was surrounded by, well, light has all colors in it. It's all beamed into a white light. So if Jesus saw the white light, he must have seen everything and all the colors of the world. Maybe. So we have interracial marriage. So a lot of the things that I hear, you're walking around with Dustin in this town. We went to Shoppers Drug Mart, I'll call them out, just fully trying to be thrown out of there. You walk in there, there's so much bigotry, people just edging you out, like coming right up to you and trying to push you out of the store because Dustin's different. So when I started to see that kind of injustice in the daily life of a friend of mine, I just was silent. I couldn't believe it. So it was a whole learning process for me. I grew up in Gravenhurst in the 80s. I had every prejudice and every foible put on to me. Came out of this high school here, and gay issues weren't even a thing, and let alone any other issues. So I walked out into the world with a lot of prejudices that I had to feel uncomfortable about and start going, wait a minute, my prejudices are hurting others. I can see it. And as you start to wake up and just become more aware of the actions that you're doing that are literally hurting others, not people who are complaining they're hurt and aren't hurt, but literally hurting others, it's really out there. So we're going to talk about that. Can anybody tell me whose father this is? Andrea, got any good guesses? Okay, reggae music. It's Bob Marley's father, this white gentleman on the cowboy horse. So we can go to the next slide there. So Bob Marley's father was 60 years old when he met Bob Marley's mother, who was 19. And out comes Bob Marley. And Bob Marley said he never felt like he was in any camp. He was not black or white. He was, again, an outcast even in that situation. The interesting little scenario there, this marriage situation. Well, they didn't get married. The father was out of the scene, just gone. One of our favorites, Albert Einstein, and his first cousin, which he married. Albert Einstein, if you don't know, married his first cousin. Didn't Bach also? Bach, Rachmaninoff, here we go, yeah. So if Bach or Rachmaninoff or Einstein came here today, would he get a silent treatment? As I still get when I say hello to people in the morning and they look right through me in this building, still today. Hey, how's it going? Just staring right through me. This is happening today in this church and obviously in the world. But people don't see it unless you're the one getting it. All right. So Albert and his cousin, okay. We'll go on to the next slide. So here's two women at their wedding day. Kind of a shocking thing to show in church still, and yet couldn't be. We'll go to the next one. This was in Taiwan when marriage was made legal and people were in the offices getting married right away. So there's a whole swath of our society, the whole world is gay, or there's groups of people doing all these things. So you can't have one group saying we're right and they're wrong, because in time that dirt accrues and we're stuck with a problem. You can't just beat people around and keep it off in the distance, because it'll come to light. Okay, let's see where we're going here. And all people want is equality in the end. We can just keep sliding through the slides there. Even in today's world, Christopher Plummer just passed away. Great Canadian actor, Sound of Music, you might remember him from that. And he finally won an award, a bunch of awards. He played, when he was 78 years old, he played a father who came out of the closet to his son, said that he'd been living a lie. And it's called Beginnings, and it was a story about his big, brave life decision to come out. Who would do that? Who would come out of the closet at 78 after, what's to be gained? Why put yourself through all of that, right? Why try to make a spectacle of yourself at that age? Well, that's what some people are thinking, where for the person who's coming out, they literally can't be bottled in anymore. Well, how do you know that? Well, if you're talking to people and actually hearing their story, then you're going to hear some of the truths. But if you're living in a bubble, well, then that's another story. So we are living in a world where people are being awarded. There's, of course, Ellen came out, first lesbian TV character in the 90s, famous. We'll keep going through. There's Robin Williams, near and dear to so many people's hearts, such a brilliant man. This movie, Boulevard, is about him. This was his last movie he made. And this was about him with a male prostitute, and his heart opened up and saw the problems that were in this male prostitute's life, and then ended up going to help that person. And he had a wife and had to sort of come out. And why would anybody do that? Why wouldn't you just keep it all bottled up and make everybody happy around you and just don't say anything? Wouldn't that be easier? Not really. It's never too late to make a U-turn. Well, there's Mrs. Doubtfire. That was Robin Williams in drag. So we do know drag. We love drag. Our society really loves it. When this movie came out, it was literally it was huge. He was so good. So we do know drag. It's when, men are dressing up with women's clothing. Well, that's the way we traditionally describe it. I don't know if we've got more drag here. So RuPaul's Drag Race is in its 13th season or something, and it's literally, I don't know, it's like a church or a mecca for all the outcasts, and I say that with love, all the people who have no place, and RuPaul championed drag queens and alternative lifestyles. And so I've been able to witness this through Dustin, and just really opened my up. Well, we're used to that too. We're used to laughing at drag, right? John Cleese, Monty Python. It's been out there. We like to laugh at it. It's fun. It doesn't mean he's evil when he does a skit. All right, let's see the next one. There's Dustin. I was just talking about Dustin performing in Gravenhurst. Dustin's a boy, and that's the way he likes to dress. We'll go to the next one. Right. So there's this amazing book called Defiled Trades and Social Outcasts, and it's just an amazing thing. It's from the 17th century, and they go through the court documents in Augsburg, Germany, and they're looking at all the problems. There was a thing they had called social pollution. So if you were caught near roadkill, or talking to the guy who cleans up roadkill, if anybody saw you, you'd literally be thrown out of the society, because there's such a tainted pollution socially with this scenario that you couldn't even get near it. The executioner was in the same boat. Anything related to death or dying was tainted, and people were afraid of it, and so it was evil, and they didn't even want to be associated with it for fear of getting swallowed up by it. So you get all of these accounts of people falling in love with somebody who happens to be the train cleaner's daughter, another low station at that time. So they're in love. So you get these court documents of these battles of families trying to bring them down in different ways, or where there's a certain prejudice in one town, but in the next city, that prejudice doesn't exist. But they're still fighting because you can see the mess that you can get into when you start labeling people unclean, and if you see them talking to somebody. That happened to me. I was with Dustin in Gravenhurst, and I got a complaint the next day at the church that I was hanging around with young boys at the tanning salon by a gentleman in this church. We should do a whole thing of rumors one day, shouldn't we? There was a rumor going around that I didn't know anything about music, and I was called in and questioned about my musical ability because somebody started a rumor saying I wasn't actually playing the organ in this church. Thank you, Andrea. Like, that happened in this church. So people like to gang up power circles, and they use things like this. Oh, they were hanging out with this. Jesus was hanging out with. Nobody's equating themselves to Jesus, but we have the same issues here, don't we? So the social dilemma. Has anybody seen this on Netflix? This is a revolutionary kind of documentary that kind of like opened the eyes for a lot of people. And what happens is when you're on Facebook or you're on any social media, we've seen in the US this problem where people can't even talk to each other. So you say, oh, well, didn't you see Trump said this, but he actually said this in this other video? And the opposing person will say, well, no, that's not true. Actually, what happened was there's this video and the Democrats lied. And there's no agreement on what the facts are. That's because the news feed that's coming through your Facebook news feed is literally tailored to your particular likes and things you've clicked and bought on Amazon, and all the interests that you have. They're all coagulated so that you only ever see a Rolodex of things that advertisers know you're interested in. So if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, it literally just pulls the lid open on this issue, and it's resonating through privacy laws now in the States, and it's become a thing. So if you want to figure out a lot of what that is, watch this. We can keep going. And basically, it gets the idea that we're all living in our own bubble. So I was raised in Gravenhurst. I learned that if you wear an earring as a guy, that means you're gay. Literally thought that my whole life. Go to Berlin, Germany. Literally every man has 2 earrings or 1. There's a kind of a punk culture there. There's a whole different vibe, completely different culture. I thought everybody was gay when I got there. Stupid idea, and yet I was walking around with that. That's what I was raised with. It was literally imprinted in my reactions to things. So I was living in a bubble, and we know in our COVID world that we must live in bubbles, or we're told to live in bubbles, but we're secretly not, or there's a lot of problems with the idea of a bubble. Well, we need a lot more than a bubble. We need a lot more give and take. We'll go to the next one. And there we are with our news feeds learning our bubble-ish things. So that when we interact with somebody, we literally aren't even aware of the news that they just saw or the slant in the news. A friend of mine worked for the Toronto Star. He was a managing editor. He told me that he goes through news stories and changes the slant based on a company calling in and saying, no, we don't like that particular way that's reported. And he would go and slant the news articles. So the social dilemma or the bubbles have been happening for quite a while, as you know. You read the newspaper, that's not pure news from heaven, unfiltered. That's still filtered news. Everything you read is a bubble of some kind. So if you're going out there and you're hating on people and saying, I don't like them and that, I'm trying to let you know that you might be living in a bubble, and though other people might be in that same bubble, let's take a look at the ramifications of doing that. So we're going to switch forward. Yeah. Has anybody ever seen on YouTube, the homosexuals? It's like a public service announcement from the 1950s and 60s, and it was like, beware, they're everywhere. They're on the bus, they're in the store, and they're offering kids candy and that kind of a thing. Well, we know there was no internet, there wasn't a lot of media, and when you see that as a kid in the 1950s, that's part of your bubble. That's part of the way you think. We'll keep going here. And of course, you take that the other way, and it's like, no, the homosexuals are the ones who are got all the propaganda, Hollywood and the media, and they're forcing all this stuff on us, and it's just like, I don't want my kids near it. So there's that whole bubble. When really people are just trying to pave a road for everybody to walk a path. Just keep going there. Okay, so we're getting close to the end, but this is gathering. It's a worship resources thing for us here at the church. It helps us plan things. Well, there's a neat thing in the back about language, and I must have skipped over Jordan Peterson somewhere there. If you can find him, that'd be great. But so in the back of this, it says language that has been hurting, and maybe we can reconsider learning new ways to say things. Well, I know that politically correct argument is stationed in some people's minds as extreme left liberal thinking that's like a dictatorship trying to force words on people. Wasn't there, eh? Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, so Jordan Peterson, if you know this intellectual from Toronto, worldwide fame now, but he rose to prominence when he challenged the government of Ontario, I believe, for mandating that he is to use a particular pronoun for homosexual or gay, trans person that they want, and that you're forced to do that. Well, he was upset about the government mandating how I should speak. It was like a language police situation that he spoke up and became very famous. He's not anti-trans and anti-gay. He's just anti-government telling me what to do. Interesting figure. So here's a couple of do's and don'ts of language that are silly when you think about it, but then, well, here's a few examples. Let's not use mother or father anymore. Just done. Mother and father. Instead, use parent, caregiver, family, or chosen family even. Some people don't have a family they've chosen. Okay, well, if you're a care worker and you're meeting a lot of people, and these are issues coming up, then you would know about them, but somebody else might not know about them. So when you talk about them, they seem strange, but you're responding to what's on the ground. Nephews and nieces. Can't say it anymore. Sorry. You got any idea what it might be, Andrea? Nibblings. So that you're not... So some things like that might come in handy and might actually, make somebody feel less discriminated against. And we're just discussing them here. Now, this isn't you should and shouldn't do, but just some things to think about. Another one is, well, anyway, we could go on and on with that, but very interesting. So I'm not here to say anything like that. I am also not here to say let's not do any of this at all either. I would love to have normal people having a discussion in the middle going, oh, okay, yeah, this and that, oh, okay. But right now that discussion is so bottled up with a lot of people who have buried emotions and they're not able to even discuss this issue. And as Marlene aptly said last week, if you have an issue with somebody, it's you that has the issue. And maybe it says more about you than it does about the person that you're feeling threatened by. So we're talking about the rainbow, and we're talking about pure light, Jesus on the mountaintop. I'd love to give us an exercise to think about this week. So I will always love you. I will always love hue, the color, hue of the color. So let's always love the hue. But let's do a meditation on white light. So instead of focusing so much on trans or any maybe outside of people's boxes, let's just focus again on the white light that brings it all together. So this is an amazing book, Your Life in Color. And it's a series of meditations on color. So we're going to start with white. White is traditionally a symbol of purity, cleansing, and it's a great color to start with because it kind of has all the colors in it. So all I want you to do this week is activate white. So I spy with my intuitive eye something that is white. So we're going to supercharge white right now. So white, what does white mean to us? Does it mean pure and clean? Does that resonate with you? Yeah. It's coming through the window. There's sort of an enlightenment aspect. Jesus' robes were bright white, brighter than any bleach. So why would he have been bright white? Is there a word for white that comes to mind? Neutral. It's a good one. It's just sort of an all-purpose thing. So, thank you, Dave. So, think of something white in your life. Maybe you've got a keychain that just happens to be white, and set it on the shelf so that when you see it, you're reminded that there's a pure love, God's love, purity available. Also, play this game. I spy with my intuitive eyes something that is white. So, maybe you see a woman with white eyeglasses, and you think, oh, I wonder if she's seeing purely. It just brings back to mind throughout the day this idea that there's something to look for other than all of the things that we're seeing. You know, we can skip forward. If you don't know this is great. So light is a big spectrum. There's a whole bunch of light that we don't see. And here there's an arrow, it says infrared, but I'm looking at the left, there's a black box that's been expanded. So from 400 to 700 nanometers, that's all we see. Our eye is built to only see that much, and it's crammed into this little sliver of this massive spectrum that we can't see. So there it is. So then it goes on to infrared light, television waves, and the other way, X-rays, gamma rays, cosmic radiation. Well, these things are out there. Ultraviolet light. Birds can see ultraviolet, but we can't. What light can't we see from somebody walking in the room? What purity have they got? And how we throw it to the side so quickly by saying, well, they did this, or they were seen with them, or all kinds of things. Now, we're human, we do that. But let's be aware that we're doing that and being aware of the effect on others, because I've seen the effect, and it's brutal. It's literally ruining lives. Next slide, please. Great. So God's light is in the middle, and there's room for everyone. That's the thing. There's just room. It's not a scarcity mindset, but an abundance mindset. And I believe that's the end. So, I will always love Hugh. And now we're going to be able to play Jen's wonderful song. So this came, I was at, whoop. All set? All right, roll it.
If I should stay, I would only be in your way, so I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you.
Wow. Thank you so much. What an amazing place this is. That piano donated by Bob Weeks in memory of Ginny, having Dave here every week, and having Mike Church help us put that together, and Courtney, all the technical side of all of that. And Jennifer, thank you for your beautiful gift. So much appreciated. Ever-present God, we come together in prayer this day. We come with our hearts filled with joy and with sorrow. Our journey is often filled with moments of thanks and moments of grief. Each day we hear more and more about lives lost, lives that have inspired many, lives that had just begun, lives ended too early, and we try to make sense of it. And so we turn to you with sighs too heavy for words. Gracious God, as we continue on our journey, let us be mindful of those in the shadows, those hiding themselves, those who grieve in silence for what cannot be. May our journey be an intentional exploration of ourselves, and may it open us up to new possibilities. Amen. Now our closing hymn, Guide Us to Openness, some new words for a familiar, Great is Thy Faithfulness. Guide us to openness, Spirit of mercy. Aid us in seeking God's justice and grace. Move us to show Christ's compassion through witness. Love first to offer and hate to erase. Guide us to openness. Guide us to openness. Let no one ever be shunned or denied. Make of the church a bold place of compassion, that all who seek you may come to abide. Spirit of tenderness, impart your presence. Fill both our hearts and our hands with your care. Let no one suffer or grieve unattended. Grant us your kindness and warmth here to share. Guide us to openness. Guide us to openness. Let no one ever be shunned or denied. Make of the church a bold place of compassion, that all who seek you may come and abide. Though there are those who would limit Christ's graces, still we refuse to believe in such lies. For in this time we have made a commitment never to limit love's power and size. Guide us to openness, guide us to openness. Let no one ever be shunned or denied. Heard of the church, a bold place of compassion, that all who seek you may come and abide. And as our blessing, we'll pray the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I will always love you, always, in all ways, and in infinity. God's love. I will always love you. Strong and true. No, God will guide you in all you do. Go now in love and show you believe. Reach out to others so God will be there, guiding with God's love. Go now in peace, in faith, and in love. Amen. Amen. Amen.